Hi everyone, I see you there in the comments. We will do a Q&A at the end of the video. We have the sun that appears very calm and quiet, but remember, we are in solar cycle 25 maximum. So what that means is that every 11 years, the sun flips its magnetic field, and during that maximum phase, the polar field strength goes to zero, and inside, the magnetic dynamo goes completely chaotic. We don't even have ways to really model it successfully or in any good way. The magnetic field's all perturbed and twisted, and then it re-pops out with new polarity, at the end of solar maximum, and then we have a new solar minimum. So this takes 11 years to go like this, and 22 years to do a full cycle, where you go from north to north again. So right now we are in solar maximum, but on the Earth-facing side of the sun, it's completely quiet in terms of sunspots, which is one of our main ways of measuring the overall activity of the sun. So yes, the calm before the storm. Hello, also I am also in Germany right now, so hello from Germany, guten Tag. So let's quickly look at some of our measures of solar activity. We'll get back to the Chrono Hole high-speed stream, and then we're going to talk about the solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th, because I think that is going to be a very big energetic event, and then that leads into the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April 20th and 21st of this month and of this year, and that's a once in every 14 years astrological alignment. So there's a lot of energy that's hidden behind the surface right now, and that's why I think this is such a good metaphor, this sun here, because there's all this, everything appears quiet on the surface, but I think inside there's a lot of energy and perturbation, and these magnetic fields are twisting and churning, and I think that in many ways can be parallels for ourselves and for human society as a collective. So we will explore all of that and more. Let us exit out of this full screen, quickly just run through this. Let's start with our X-ray flux to show that decreasing solar flux. Here is our X-ray flux, and so we see some solar activity here. We had a sequence of flares. We had another flare. Another X flare is a 1.12 X flare. So it's the same strength as the X flare that caused this pretty big geomagnetic storm, which I covered live if you were there for that live stream or watched that video after. That did not trigger any sort of coronal mass ejection. And interestingly, that did not trigger a proton radiation storm. We can see here's the 31st. It happened right before that, UTC time. If we go here, we'll see that on the 31st, no proton storm. And the reason why that was kind of unexpected is because that sunspot group was at the part of the sun and the overall interplanetary magnetic field where it has a nice coupling to the Earth electromagnetically. So it just wasn't able to push any of these protons out of the solar corona or any of these other nearby regions and into disperse them into interplanetary space. So we had a 1.12 X-class flare, very much a mirror or a twin of the one that was earlier, but no proton storm and no geomagnetic storm as a result. Then we've had another flare right here. We can zoom in. An M-class flare went up to about 4, 3.9 or 4 on the scale. So it's a M-class flare. But look here, you see our solar energies has really been going down. And so one thing to note is look at our baseline of solar irradiance in the X-ray band as measured in Earth's radiation belts at 5.6 Earth radii by the GO satellite. Our overall solar irradiance for X-rays was at this baseline level here. This is a log scale. And now we've moved down about an order of magnitude from these normal quiet conditions to now. And it really shows you that even when there isn't an active flare, these sunspots are still releasing more X-rays, extreme ultraviolet rays, and then also gamma rays. This is, the extremely high vibrational wavelengths of light. So now that there are no sunspots on the surface of the sun facing Earth, our X-ray flux has gone way down. This means that also solar irradiance across many different wavelengths of light has gone down. So I see a lot of people now streaming in. I see your comments. Thank you all for being here. We will do a Q&A at the end. We will do a look at the archetypal energies in the astrology for the total solar eclipse later on this video. But first we have this possible geomagnetic storm on the 4th of April, according to NOAA. That is their forecast. And that is because of this high-speed stream that's coming in. So I think I have the right graphic here. This really shows that Chrono Hole. So here we really see this Chrono Hole nicely. This is the 211 angstrom view, and I can make that full screen. And so here we see this area of open magnetic field flux. It appears darker, it's slightly cooler in temperature, but the magnetic field lines emit like this, and as a result you get these high-speed streams of ions. So this is the only really active feature on our sun at this moment in time. It's not a sunspot, so you don't see it in those intensity grams, but this is emitting a kind of like a gale of wind into the interplanetary magnetic field that will sweep by the Earth, and that is going to happen around the 4th of April according to NOAA. Now, if I go to some slides here, oh, these are not the slides I want. I'm making some content on the trans-Newtonian objects. And we will get into that, not in this video, but in a different video. But here we go. The Russell-McFerrin effect is in play right now. So we do have quite a lot of energetic coupling right now between the sun and the Earth. So effectively what happens is during the equinoxes, during spring and autumn equinox, the tilt of the Earth makes Earth's magnetic field align to interplanetary magnetic field very nicely, allowing for easy energy injection into Earth's magnetosphere, plasmasphere, and the deeper energetic layers like the ionosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. So with this high-speed stream, if that was to occur during, let's say, the summer months, or the solstice in general, right? Summer or winter, that could just kind of blow past the Earth, and Earth is wearing a wind jacket. But when it's sweeping by during the equinoxes, then it really is like you're wearing very little and you get that wind chill. You have that energetic effect that can occur. So we see here these peaks during different types of solar conditions: solar minimum, solar kind of like the ascending or descending phase, going towards maximum. Here's solar maximum. We see that the Russell-McFerrin effect is greater, and this energetic loading and this potential to have strong geomagnetic storms is much greater during March and April, and then also during September and October around the equinoxes. So this high-speed stream is going to cause a geomagnetic shakeup very likely on the 4th, and that is in advance of this total solar eclipse that is exactly conjunct Chiron by a degree and minute on April 8th at 2:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I can show that map here. This is our eclipse map. We see the 2023 annular eclipse that occurred in October. This was its trajectory for the US. Here's this total solar eclipse going this way. I know not all of you are from the United States, but if we talk about the global energies, there is a convergence of energy for the United States right now. Most of my watchers are from there, but I do have a lot of people from around the world. Thank you all so much. God bless. And we see this convergence here in Texas, which is interesting. So this is occurring on the 8th, and it's also conjunct Chiron, which is a Centaur asteroid, which has a lot of archetypal energy in relation to internal healing. So I find it interesting that right now we have this quiet sun that has no activity that we see except for this Chrono Hole on the outside. We can go back to that. But if we, where is it? Yeah, here is our quiet sun, right? But we know that we're at solar maximum. We know the magnetic field in this sun is completely bonkers. It's totally crazy. So it's really like holding its cool, but there's a lot it wants to say, right? And I think everything that has vibration is conscious. This is general resonance theory. Anything that vibrates has some sort of consciousness. We are just beings of vibration, And the sun is much more complex and vibratory than us. So you can consider the sun a super consciousness. I know I do. If you look back at ancient religion, they worship the sun as a god across the planet independently. So the sun you could consider a super consciousness. And right now on its backside, it has that sunspot group that triggered that very powerful geomagnetic storm. So hidden from us, it has this open energy center. But on our side, we're not seeing anything. It's keeping its calm, it's cool. Hey guys, everything's good, but the building's on fire all around you. So that's kind of the energy vibe that I'm getting from this. And it plays really nicely into this solar eclipse. So there'll be a little bit of a shakeup on Earth on the 4th due to this high-speed stream. But it actually might not be that much, because if you look at our electron flux, this is for the radiation belts. You get the strongest geomagnetic storms when this electron flux here is high and then it drops. And that's an ion precipitation event. So all these electrons and other ions are up in the radiation belts, and then they get pushed downwards into the ionosphere and atmosphere, charging those layers of the Earth onion. And as a result, you get more energy volatility closer to home. And of course, closer to like the biosphere and the Schumann resonances and in the lithosphere, and that can be related to things like earthquakes and enhanced weather activity, and just in general people being a little bit more crazy. That's what I've noticed, at least. So by the way, everyone in the comments, I see you. We will be doing a Q&A later, so please stick around for that, or watch the video later to see what people bring up. So save your questions if you have them. So this is our electron flux. How much this geomagnetic storm, the severity of it, really depends on kind of this. And right now it's pretty weak. So, but we'll see. This high-speed stream from this Chrono Hole actually may charge up our energy belts, our radiation belts. And then on the 8th, we may see some sort of solar activity. We saw that happen with the lunar eclipse, is when we had that 1.12 X-class flare and coronal mass ejection impact. That was all staged around the sun ingressing into Aries, and then that lunar eclipse that we had at 5 degrees of Aries and 5 degrees of Libra. This is Western tropical astrology for the archetypal influences. So we can look at this high-speed stream here actually with this model by NOAA. Let me increase this. And so we see this one right there. See that little increase in plasma density? That's the high-speed stream that they've modeled. Here's the normal co-rotating interaction region, increased plasma density there, but then that high-speed stream sweeps by, and then we have another normal solar wind co-rotating interaction region there. So that's the high-speed stream, creating kind of a third pulse, you would say. And these co-rotating interaction regions are areas where faster solar wind catches up to a slower solar wind that's more dense, and it kind of creates this compression shock region. So we have this high-speed stream right there. We see you get a little plasma density bump, and we see how the velocity increases because it's a high-speed stream. So this is modeled just on the 2nd of April at 00 UTC time. So just modeled just recently. This is the most up-to-date space weather model that we have. But really, it's this total solar eclipse that I think is going to be kind of the X factor. So let's go into that. And we have our graphics. I have some things. Well, also, I guess I also wanted to mention the fact that the solar wind is influenced by the new moon. Because when we have a total solar eclipse, we have a new moon. So the moon is positioned in front of the Earth, in between the sun, and it's going to pass directly in such a way that it'll actually cast a shadow on the Earth. That's what's creating this eclipse path. It'll be precisely lined along the ecliptic, such that it'll completely block the sun, and people along that path, it'll be like 3 or 5 minutes of darkness. I think it's like 5 minutes. Which will be cool. But another thing is that the moon actually being in this position alters the interplanetary magnetic field. So we have this high-speed stream coming in, and it causes these disturbances here to the interplanetary magnetic field. They vary about 2, 3, 5 nanotesla in strength. So if you do get any solar activity at that time, the moon there was also going to be modifying the quality of that that solar wind stream, or let's say coronal mass ejection could occur, or some plasma filament, plasma wave. It'll modify that, and then that will then quickly and rapidly hit the Earth, because the moon and the Earth are pretty close together in relation to the distance that the Earth is separated from the sun. So it's a pretty quick modification, and some of these disturbances, they kind of ripple forward. So we do have that in play over the next few days. Starting around the 4th, it'll be positioned pretty close to that direct alignment, and then on the 8th is when that goes direct. So here is our astrological chart, Western tropical astrology. This is not true sky position. We are basing our understanding of the energies of this based on the precession of the equinoxes, with the spring equinox being the 1st degree of Aries. And so right now we are in Aries season. I have this chart for where I am, which is Cologne, Germany. And so here we see our big stellium of energies in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, the new start. And the first thing to note with a total solar eclipse is that it is a new moon. So if we backtrack and take away the Chiron aspect and the eclipse aspect and all this stuff, we have a new moon in Aries. That's what it is fundamentally. And that's in many ways the largest energy influence here is the fact that it's a sun-moon conjunction. We have a new moon in Aries. So we have this new complete start for the zodiac for the next year for lunar energies. These can be maternal energies. These can be, the moon is one of the big planets of like fortune and abundance and manifestation. And Aries is like this, the great initiator. It takes the creative energies going from 0 to 1, where there's nothing, all of a sudden there's something. You have Shiva, and now you have Krishna. That is very much Aries. So we have this new moon in Aries that will eclipse the sun. The sun, of course, 99.86% of the mass in the solar system. It's, thank God we have it, or else Earth would be a very cold, icy place. We would not be watching this live stream or making it. But the moon, based on its orbit, its distance from the Earth, it'll perfectly eclipse, which is a crazy coincidence, you could say. It'll perfectly pass over the sun and block it. It's not so large that it blocks it by double, and it's not so small that it only creates a little dot on the sun. It perfectly eclipses it. So it speaks this idea that there's a solar energy, this solar consciousness, this solar drive, this ego, this individuality, and the moon is going to cast that in darkness for a period of time. Now, according to astrology, eclipses are very fated events, and those ripple out until the next set of eclipses. And so this eclipse is, the energies of this, including the lunar eclipse that we had, are in play until the next set of eclipses around the next equinox, which would be probably around October or so. It kind of depends on the moon cycle, but September, October. So yeah, a lot of energy here. So you have just the fact that it's a new moon in Aries, and then you have the fact that it's kind of interacting with the energetics of the sun, with this casting of the shadow, blocking the sun and casting the shadow on the Earth, taking that part of the Earth into darkness, only to be kind of reborn into solar light again. And it's not a partial solar eclipse where you get these cool shadows and everything. It's a total solar eclipse. It's going to get very dark. Animals kind of go crazy. They're like, what's happening? And of course, there's a lot of people that are going to this eclipse path in the United States to check that out. So if you go back to our chart though, we see that most of the energies are here on this side: Pisces, Aries, Taurus. This is the last sign of the zodiac. We have some things there. We'll talk about that. Then we have the first sign of the zodiac and the second sign of the zodiac. Here in Taurus, we have our Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming up. I've made 2 videos on that. I highly recommend you go watch the second one I made, which is discussing the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and the grand Earth trine that it forms at the peak of that conjunction. I think that's really just very beautiful energy. And so this is leading into that. And you'll notice here, let me get my finger lined up, you'll see the symbol for Chiron. Chiron is a centaur that orbits in between Saturn and Uranus. It's a very small celestial, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but like astrologically, because there's centaurs that are bigger, Chariklo, I don't know how to pronounce it. Chariklo is a bigger centaur. Chiron's the third largest centaur. And then they're all very tiny though. I mean, Pluto's much larger than Chiron. Chiron has a diameter of like about 200. Let me actually go to the next slide. I'll come back to this wheel here, okay? Here's our best image of Chiron. We have no idea what it really looks like. We know that it produces like a coma. It's kind of like has a comet type activity. Glad to see you all too. Here's a symbol. Here's the orbit. We see that it passes sometimes a little closer than the orbit of Saturn, goes all the way out just a little bit past the orbit of Uranus. But it has a special energy to it because so much weight has been put into it. There's no reason why Chiron should be such an important point astrologically, but it is. For some reason, the astrological community has poured a lot of energy into it. So, and then that's backed up with that fact that like during this total solar eclipse, it is exactly conjunct the peak of the eclipse with the sun and the moon by degree and by minute. So that is quite notable. I mean, it's an extremely precise alignment. And this is just a very small little Centaur type C asteroid. So there's something there to that. But this is, there's a whole bunch of different cycles that Chiron has. But if we go through the mythology, Chiron was the wisest of the centaurs, a teacher, a healer, son of Saturn, and one of these nymphs. You know, there's so many nymphs in Greek mythology. Raised and educated by Apollo, the sun god, and also Artemis, his sister, the moon goddess. Teacher to Achilles and other Greek heroes. So he was this wise healer and teacher, but he was not fatally wounded. He was wounded and had this kind of like this by Hercules. Actually, he had this poisonous wound that he was never able to fully recover from. And so Chiron speaks to internal kind of wounds that we have and how to not necessarily heal them, but get them to a point where we can live with them and just recognize that that's actually part of our DNA, our makeup, who we are. So this total solar eclipse in Aries and Chiron transiting through Aries is really speaking to what things need to be reformatted and re-examined and just come to terms with in the Aries parts of our lives. Everyone has Aries in a different house, different aspects to Aries. For example, mine's in the 12th house. So Aries is like my deep subconscious according to astrology. So what wounds or what aspects really need to be examined very deeply there? And so for me, this really speaks perfectly with this sun that has a lot of energy in it. But on the outside, it's completely unperturbed. So very, very interesting. I've had a lot of very intense dreams recently. I'm not sure if you have been having that as well. So I think this big increase in dreaming and the symbology of these dreams and the lucidity of these dreams is not necessarily from any geomagnetic storm influence, or sometimes Schumann resonances, they influence dreams in that kind of energy field. But I think it's been this really big wave coming in from the eclipses. So I've just personally reporting for you my own experience there. I do keep track of this. If we go back to our chart, we see that we have a few other things at play. We have Venus in Aries, and you'll notice that Venus is the ruler of Taurus. That's that's her Earth temple, you could say. And that is where we then have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Two sky gods, grandfather and grandson meeting up together, boom, big shakeup, and then Jupiter moves into Gemini around May 20th. Sedna will move into Gemini on May 10th. So there's a really nice progression of energies here with Aries and then Taurus and then Gemini. 1, 2, 3. We also have this Pisces here kind of bringing up the rear. We will have Mars conjunct Saturn. Basically, I mean, you see it's 1 degree conjunct there, 13 degrees, 14 degrees for the two of them respectively. They will go exactly conjunct on the 10th of April. That is the start of a new malefic cycle. That's a 2-year Mars-Saturn cycle, the cycle of woe, they call it. But that is occurring just a couple days afterwards, preceding this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. We also have Neptune here. Venus is actually going to be conjuncting Neptune tomorrow, and then she's moving into Aries. And we have the North Node here. That's why we're having the eclipses in Aries and in Libra. And we'll also notice that we have Eris here, which is a trans-Newtonian dwarf planet larger than Pluto, just has a kind of a wider orbit. And we also have Mercury here in its retrograde. So it is just starting its retrograde. So there's a lot of energy in Aries. And yeah, so I just wanted to discuss that. You'll notice that there's really nothing over here. I mean, these are some angles based on the chart that I drew. We have Ceres and Capricorn. That's pretty nice placement because Capricorn ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the god of agriculture. Ceres is a fertility agriculture goddess. So that's a pretty nice placement there in an Earth sign, adding a little bit of grounding to this whole equation. Ceres being pretty close to Earth in between Mars and Jupiter, whereas Chiron's pretty far out there. And yeah, I mean, we have like Juno, for example, in Virgo. That's also nice. Orcus there at 14 degrees is like the anti-Pluto. I've been learning about all these dwarf planets, so I'll make some videos on those soon. But really, Pluto here in Aquarius, no real big aspects though. These trines here are pretty loose, and so is the square. They're not, super exact. It's really just the fact that there's big stellium energy. So it's like just the whole sign is resonating, right? That whole aspect, that archetypal energy field is just resonating just by the sheer amount of points in it. That's what's really at play. And with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, we will have Venus and Mercury actually be conjunct at that moment in time. And the sun will have moved ahead and then will exactly square Pluto within just like 24 hours. So there's a lot happening. This total solar eclipse kind of kicks it off. And it really, we saw with the lunar eclipse, these really big bursts of energy from the sun. And now we have this very quiet sun. So it'll be interesting to see if the sun rotates any sunspots into view and whether we get any big bursts of energy, or whether this is really kind of an indication that instead of this release of energy outwards, it's kind of more going inwards. I often think of the sun as the heart chakra. Also the solar plexus, the two are very close together. And so sometimes when the sun is very active, I find myself also very active. I find my heart chakra very active. And so now with the sun quiet, I think it's a little bit of a sign from solar consciousness to, it's okay to step back. It's okay to just kind of be quiet. It's okay to not do that much. Sometimes silence and letting go and just observing is the best course of action. We don't always have to be on the offensive, you could say. Sometimes it's better to just kind of sit back, observe, and see what happens, and not to engage all that strongly. So I think Chiron speaks to that as well. That inward journey, instead of always funneling your energy outwards and kind of being on this very egotistical, go, you're dissecting and analyzing and seeing all this stuff, more just experiencing and welcoming in wholeness, oneness, and feeling yourself connect to the larger energy field and to everyone else around you. So I think these are some of the themes that we're feeling here. At least that's what I'm getting from this. So yeah, see you all in the chat. Cycle of woe. Yeah, is it W-O-E or W-O-A-H? I think it's probably both. Because typically with these Mars-Saturn conjunctions, there are often some pretty big events that occur on the global scale. So we'll open up the Q&A. Thank you all for being here. It took a while for people to jump in this time, but I know it's like working hours. So for everyone that's here, that's great. And maybe I caught you on your lunch break. I see all the love coming in. So many stars. Jesus would have happened if that. Reading through this. Bong hits with Jesus. Hit the like. Thank you. Thank you. Great haircut. Thank you. Yeah, I decided to cut the antenna, you could say. I've been planning that for a while. And when I was actually at the hairdresser, they're like, "Are you not freaking out?" Like, I was like, "No, it's no problem." So I cut my hair. Actually, I have it just, I grabbed the lock. But I feel a lot lighter with that, and with some of the really intense energies coming up, I think having slightly shorter hair is going to be a little more grounding. So thank you. I like it too. It's easier to sleep with. Just questions, please. If you have any questions, roll them in. Yes, you did catch a live Oracle of Starlight. I'm going through now, going up, because I don't see any active questions right now. 9 degrees Aries, Venus, Western. In this chart, she's at 4 degrees. So she's at 4 degrees and 27 minutes. And that's, you'll notice that it's the Sun, Moon, and Chiron are exactly conjunct at 19 degrees and 24 minutes. So that's the exact alignment. It's right at the very end of that second decan. Okay, what is the cycle of woe? The cycle of woe, I'm not an expert, okay? I'm still learning into mundane astrology and a lot of this stuff. But the cycle of woe is when Mars and Saturn conjunct. And then they go through their sextile, their waxing sextile, their waxing square, trine, opposition, and then waning until they get to another conjunction, and they are both malefics. So Saturn is the great malefic and Mars is the lesser malefic. And so when they conjunct, that's seen as often as like bad times or things that aren't good. Because Mars is very aggressive. He wants to cut, dissect, and attack and break down, and just, he's just a gorilla on a rampage. And Saturn likes to impose limits and say no and reevaluate this and redo that, and I'm going to push you to the edge of your ability until I manifest that thing into your life. Like, you're going to have to show a tremendous amount of discipline. Saturn is he was prayed to for farmers. He was the god of the farmers, and I mean, farmers are some of the hardest working people, and they are under attack right now. I'm not sure if you've been up to date on this. There's been a whole bunch of protests with farmers around the world. India, Europe, North America. What they're doing with farmers now in North America is awful. They're like shutting them down using satellite imagery because they're not compliant. It's total bullshit. That's what the farmers are literally working with every day, is bullshit, where these people are just behind their desk, on power trips. Farmers are some of the hardest working people. My grandfather was a farmer, all the generations before that. And so with farming, you put in so much work, but you do get that payoff. If you listen to the cycles of the seasons and you really engage with that and you put in the work, you do reap that harvest. And that's very Saturnian. And Capricorn is an earth sign and ruled by Saturn. So that is a big energy at play. And so this Mars-Saturn cycle of woe takes about 2 years based on the rotation of Mars, because Saturn is much slower, and that is conjuncting in Pisces. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a reduced intensity Mars-Saturn cycle as a result, because Pisces is a little bit more mellow, but it's going to be tapping more into the subconscious, the unconscious, into the spiritual realm. So it may not manifest so much on like an earth element scale or like in the mental sphere with air element, but more in the watery Piscean fields. So that is a little bit on the cycle of woe that's occurring. That's conjuncting right after this eclipse. And that is also being seeded with that eclipse energy and then lasting for 2 years. So yeah, a lot happening. But if you're don't be worried about this, but the end of April is looking very, very nice with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, Grand Earth Trine. So I didn't see any of the comments that happened during that. I apologize. Eat whole foods, no more junk processed. Absolutely. The best thing you could do is just like eat potatoes. Just eat peas, green beans, carrots, leafy greens. Like if you eat meat, then just like good organic grass-fed beef or wild-caught fish. If you're not a meat eater, then like organic tempeh and tofu. There's a whole bunch of things that are just really good for you. You could bake your own bread, so there's none of the preservatives in it. There's alternative breads you can make. I've been doing a lot of baking recently, using things like rice flour and even like sweet potato. So, and I just feel like $1 million. Olive oil, good quality fats are key. And one thing I like to share about olive oil, especially like extra virgin olive oil, if you eat it raw, it is super, super anti-inflammatory for your digestive system. It has a bunch of polyphenols, it has the tannins, that's what gives it that good flavor, and it just cleans your entire digestive system of inflammation. It has natural antimicrobial, antiparasitic, antifungal properties. So like what I've been doing is I've been making my own yeast-free, gluten-free bread and just eating that with olive oil and like Italian spices and sumac along with tempeh, and that's a fantastic meal. Protein, fiber, good fats, it's delicious. Whole unprocessed foods. I know the bread's slightly processed. I make it myself. Also has a sweet potato in there. That's the best you can do, and that will help you stay grounded during all these energies. Both the divine masculine and feminine are under attack by dark powers. Yeah, there is this like separation, it seems. I mean, there's nothing is separated, but it's at times it feels like it's so hard to connect with the opposite sex, or there's so much bad experience that people have had with the opposite sex that it then clouds and stains their future interactions with other people that could be totally great. And so I think that needs to be overcome, and that really just comes from being heart-centered and realizing we are all one love, and not being judgmental or hasty. And I think that also speaks to this Saturn Chiron moon conjunction, where we take a step back and we're more observant and less reactive. I think that would be a very intelligent thing for us to do on a more societal collective level. Coconut oil is better than olive oil, very high in saturated fats, but I love coconut oil too, but I find olive oil has a better fat profile between saturated, mono, and poly. I just like the flavor of it more. And so yeah, you can choose. It's good to eat both. Canning organic foods. Yeah, soup, stew. That's what I've been making a lot of. I'm going to have some soup that I made tonight. Super easy to make. Please talk about the Vedic traditions knowing about solar eclipse releasing dark entities. I don't really know much about that, but I know that the Indians have created a whole bunch of released, a whole bunch of ideas. And they have cycles within cycles within cycles. And I think sometimes, just in general, with some of these things, is there's a lot of extrapolation. There's like, for example, Saturn. Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. They have this 20-year cycle, and then they go through the signs in a triplicity cycle that lasts 200 years. And then for that to go around and reach the same point in the zodiac again, like the exact same degree, takes like thousands and thousands of years. And then they took that even further and turned it into like this multi-billion year cycle. And it's like, okay, this is a 20-year cycle, which has like a 200-year larger cycle, an 800-year return cycle. It's not a billion-year cycle. At least I think sometimes you take these things a little too far. So in regards to like eclipses releasing dark entities, I mean, I don't know, but I use my dreams to understand a lot of that, and I haven't had any dreams that I can remember during eclipses that were especially dark or had that feeling or influence to them. So I can't really speak on it that much though, but I hope you found that valuable. CERN is starting again on the 8th. That's interesting. Of course, they're always turning on and turning off. Be gone, dark entities. Yeah, I mean, I have had experience. I've definitely had experience with entities. It's not fun, and what I've learned is it has to be extremely strict, and you have to put your will behind it. Because if you're you have to release your fear. So if you're like, I don't want this, it's not going to stop. But if you're like, get the fuck out, they will get out. Because if you show your divine source power and that you are, we are all creators. If you show that, then you are the overwhelming power, and then that can push that away. And there's so much out there that if the moment you show yourself to be an even slightly stronger target than something else, they'll leave you alone. So just food for thought, just really whatever you need to do. You can shout, you can scream, or just say it in your head just very loudly. You just really have to push. And that can be a little harder if you're in a dream state because you're a little less conscious, less lucid. But once you get that, you can train that, and you immediately just push that energy out, and it'll leave you really quick. So it's something that requires some training, but it's that's part of the process. Is become more empowered, is to actually kind of go through some of that. It's very Saturnian, right? To undergo these challenges to become stronger or more self-embodied as a result. So be strong. Even the illusion of strength can help you. Exactly. I mean, look at bears. They'll charge you, and then they'll leave at the last second if you just stand your ground. Same with sharks. The moment you start swimming away, they'll go in to chomp, chomp, chomp. But if you are there, and I've been watching this girl that's a shark diver. She's totally nuts. But the tiger sharks, 20 feet long, they'll be coming right towards her. They're going to do an investigation bite. That's what they do. They investigate by biting. And she just puts her hand right on their snout, which is probably where they have all their electrical sensors, and she just pushes them away like this and pats their belly. And this is a 20-foot wide great tiger shark. It could instantly just speed up and just chomp her in half, and it's no problem because she's not afraid. The eclipse may reveal the comet. That's right, we do have this comet that's going to be cycling past around this time too. Comets are heralds of change, very much big kind of archetypal energies are baked into comets, and they don't come around that often. So it is, we're coming upon an energy convergence, which is why I'm making this live stream. Though the sun may kind of be quiet right now, we do have this energy convergence happening. I just wanted to provide a place for everyone to come together, kind of discuss that, create that little nexus point. And there's too much for any one person to fully comprehend and understand. But collectively, I think we can feel this. And just the best thing to do is just be very grounded, prepared, and just, get your mental energies very nicely formatted and clean, I would say. I don't push my luck with sharks or people. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go shark diving either. I think the girl's crazy, but, some people like that. So everyone's got to do their thing. I came face to face with a black bear as a small girl. Yeah, that must have been intense. Luckily, black bears aren't as aggressive, but I wonder how that changed your relationship with nature and also with power and fear and everything at such a young age. You can share your story in the comments. I'm sure others would like to read it. Reading more. When did I cut my hair? Cut my hair just not even a week ago. Actually, maybe it was a week ago. Yeah, so pretty recent. Feels good. Everyone in their element. Thoughts on surgery on a full moon? That's on a full moon. On a full moon, typically not a good idea, just because the best time to do surgery, based on the research, is at night. And that's because your internal energies are quieter, there's less happening. And so when you make these incisions and all this stuff, there's just less chaos in the system. So they've shown that if you do, let's say, like an open heart surgery in the afternoon, your recovery time is much longer than someone that has their open heart at night, when the body is naturally in its circadian rhythm in that rest and recovery stage. And the outcomes are also lesser too. So the person that has, let's say, the open heart surgery at night will recover faster and better. And so during a full moon, it will be nighttime, that's true, but it's at a point in this lunar cycle where there is more energy at that moment. So it'd be better, the best time would be a new moon, to have not an eclipse, but to have a open heart or whatever surgery on a new moon at night. Just energetically, that'd be the best time. It also speaks to a new beginning. And if you have that in a certain alignment astrologically, that could be a very fresh, good start. But new moons would be better at nighttime. I did cut my hair, so thank you all for the comments. Much respect to all of you as well, and thank all of you as well. Blessings to you all. Lots to take food with lots of biotin after you cut off locks. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. More B vitamins. I have been getting my B vitamins recently. So, ever going to do a segment with Pam Gregory, astrologer? I have the possibility. I haven't talked to her yet, but I know David, who she's been recently mentioning. He's a really eclectic, interesting fellow who had a terrible injury with his feet recently. And so she's been, mentioning him so people can say their prayers. And we're going to be doing some sort of interview live stream together at some point soon. But he knows her, so I may reach out and at some point do something with Pam Gregory. But I really don't know her that well. I mean, that would help in the process of getting to know her, right? I know she's very popular. She seems very nice. So yeah, at some point I'd like to do that. Energy right now is crazy. Loads of unpleasant feelings coming up, just breathing through it. That is the key. Breath work is one of the most powerful things you can do, especially with fresh air. And an interesting thing about breathing is that oxygen is paramagnetic. So it's conditionally magnetic. It's basically not magnetic, but if it comes into contact with a strong magnetic field, it will slightly align to it. And our lungs, right here and here, are right next to our heart, which is our strongest magnetic field. So every breath that you're taking in is causing a magnetic reorientation of these oxygen molecules, and then you're breathing that out. So there's a slight energy and information transfer with every breath. So I don't know the exact mechanism, but if you are kind of loading energy into your heart field, emotional energy, and then you breathe that out into the air, that could be a way to actually release some of these energies. So that's why breath work, one scientific reason why breath work is so powerful, but also just like releasing tension in the body. Your fascia holds a lot of energy, information, and memory. So it helps to open all that up too. And it creates a charge, induction, exactly, breathe out love. CERN on April 8th. Can you go over things to do or rather not to do during this eclipse, please? Things to do or not to do. Well, again, I would go back to the fact that it's a new moon. And so look at where Aries is for your chart. And that could be a good time to do something for that specific aspect of life. So for example, for me, it's my 7th house. No, it's not my 7th house. For this chart location, it's the 7th house. For me, it's my 12th house. So it's just a little bit of a flashlight for me into the unconscious, subconscious realm. So I'm just doing a lot of work, just kind of exploring those areas, taking my time with it. And then, it's no big rush, but also I know that I should put some energy and effort into that. So that's why I'm doing that. So it's a new moon. It's a good time for new, fresh starts, new beginnings. This is an eclipse, so these energies are a little bigger in scale overall. But of course, you have to be careful what you wish for. So if you're going to do something, it doesn't necessarily need to be some super mega ambitious thing. It can just kind of be like what I said, like I'm just going to spend a little bit more time going inwards. I think it's hard to go wrong with that. The inner exploration journey is, though it can be a lot, it's only going to lead to self-empowerment and consciousness evolution in the long run. So I wouldn't go do anything crazy. I wouldn't say anything hastily with Mercury retrograde, but it's a good time for starting a new, fresh, creative idea or project, or even like exploring your creative gifts, whatever that may be. It could be woodworking, it could be painting, it could be weaving or gardening. Just like, I think that would be a very healthy expression and outlet for some of these energies. So may that help you. Face my addictions. Yeah, addiction is a big one, and a lot of it goes up here with your neurotransmitters. And so with addictions, and I have my own kind of journey with cannabis, because cannabis can be addictive. I mean, it just gives you this big dopamine boost and then drops, so it kind of creates this cycle. It's a sacred plant, but you have to be very careful with it. A lot of people abuse it now, especially the high THC varieties. But this is just one thing. There's a lot of things, alcohol, whatever. I think one way to deal with addiction is to create substitutes. So, for example, and this doesn't work the same for everybody, but let's say you are using a lot of cannabis. Well, you can maybe cut back on cannabis and have a little bit more coffee. And then you could cut back on coffee and have a little bit more, let's say, like dark chocolate. And then you cut back on dark chocolate and have a little bit more, let's say, like cashews or something. Like, you can just slowly ramp things down. I think that's a really healthy way to deal with that, because it takes time. Fasting, I mean, anything that reformats your microbiome is going to help if you want like a quicker way to do it. There's some things like that. But then also just sometimes having the discipline and willpower to do a cold turkey lockout is honestly some of the things that you have to do. Just set aside, make it an effort, a priority, and don't fool yourself. So this is really a consciousness thing too. Namaste. Addiction to love is a real addiction. Yeah, but it's not pure love though. It's the whole conversation. It's a crazy water, exercise. Exercise releases those natural dopamines and feel-good chemicals. I don't go running that often. I think it's really hard on the knees. Unless you're like trail running, but when you do get a runner's high, oh man, it feels so good. And there's really no come down. It's just you're up and then you just stay higher up, and it's strengthening your heart and your cardiovascular system, and just there's this aspect of releasing more ego and being more mindful of others, society, just other life. Like, for example, trees and just the world in general. But I think that journey is also very much assisted by empowering yourself and being healthier. I think that they go perfectly together. So when you are healthy and you're not sick and you are strong and you're fit and you're able as best as you can, to the best of your ability, that only helps that journey. And allows you to make more positive contributions to the world and to the overall energy field. So that is, I think that's a very good thing. So yeah, when you have these downward pressures, let's say like addiction, doing something that feeds you in a nourishing way, whether this is food, exercise, breathing, meditation, good social interactions, just being with people that genuinely just like love you, right? They just have your best interests at heart. Of course, we're not perfect, but you just know deeper down that these are your people, your soul tribe, soul family, true love resonance. We should all hopefully have at least one person in our life that meets that criteria, and spend more time with them. I think that can be very healing. Doesn't have to be a person. It could be a pet. It could be a cat, a dog. I have my turtle, right? So there's trees are great. Go hug a tree. I know sometimes it sounds a little hippie, but it works. It works. Spend time in nature. One of the best things you can do. Stay active and play more. Play is the most fun thing. I love to play. So find a place where you can play. Like here nearby, there's a park where I can do pull-ups and push-ups and stuff. But they do like these balance. They have like these balance things where there's like a wire you can walk on and different. There's like this board that kind of shakes like this. It's just fun. So just have some fun. Jump on a trampoline or something if you can, if you're able. Yeah, play. It's one of the most healing things. Chickens. Chickens are great. Chickens are awesome. More questions. If you have more questions, please put them in the Q&A. We won't do this forever, so we're kind of getting close to wrapping up. Trees are the largest and most spiritually advanced plants on Earth. They are certainly in meditation. Subtle energy is their natural language. I absolutely agree with that. We could do a whole day. I'm actually thinking of doing like a whole day live stream sometime in the near future for a fundraising effort. I'll announce that when that happens, but we could talk about that for hours. I mean, they all interconnect their root systems together. They all emit these subtle energy fields because they bring up these telluric currents. You know, the flow of water and ions through their material bodies creates and emits these subtle magnetic fields. They all intermesh together. They emit these natural frequencies. They're connected to the mycorrhizal networks, the mushroom networks, which of course have incredible intelligence. The amount of complexity in mushroom networks is insane. The largest and the longest lived organisms on the planet, the microbiome, they're connected to all that, and then they reach up into the sky as, like, you know, redwoods go up 300-400 feet, 100 plus meters, connect to the ether and the cosmos. They can't move around. They have to stay fixed in position and endure the elements. They have these exceptionally long lives unless we interfere typically. Or a beaver. They certainly are in meditation and are very, very, very wise. If you make the effort to speak with plants and trees, you will discover that and feel that firsthand. Puppies for Easter. That sounds very nice. Enjoy your puppies. Borealis, yeah. So yeah, we'll have a geomagnetic storm. It appears that we'll have a geomagnetic storm on the 4th. Let me exit out of this and go back to the high-speed stream data really quick for y'all, so you can see that. Here is our Chrono Hole, and this right now is the only active feature on our sun. There's no sunspots. This is our Chrono Hole emitting a high-speed stream. Impact is expected on the 4th of April according to NOAA, and it's expected to be about a G1 geomagnetic storm. But because we're on the Russell-McFerrin Effect, I would not be surprised if this is actually quite a shaker. So we will see. But it's very unlikely to be like a G4 or a G5. That typically requires a big coronal mass ejection. And this isn't that big. You know, if this was like some huge Chrono Hole, then it'd be like, okay, the thumbnail would be different. But we do have this there, and it opened up too recently. We can look actually at how it kind of opened up on the sun. I think it's, where's the right graphic? Here is our quiet sun, by the way, if you're tuning in freshly anew. And we can look at this here and get this started. You can see this Chrono Hole basically kind of open up and just kind of enlarge. I mean, it was already there, but you see it becomes more defined, especially there, right? And so as this sweeps by, the high-speed stream will sweep past us. Hi, shalom. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Shout out to the puppies. Oh, recurrent nova. Okay. Oh, it's happening. Yes. Yeah, so there's this star. If you haven't heard of this, there's a star that has a recurrent nova every 80 years. So there's some cycle that it has that just causes a very large energetic outburst approximately every 80 years. So, of course, this varies a little bit. So now astronomers are looking up and just kind of waiting for this recurrent nova to happen. So that's another astrological kind of energy that is coming into play. It could be tomorrow. It could be in September. We really don't know. It could be next year. but it happens at approximately an 80-year time interval. So that's another thing. That may occur with some other kind of energy period for the Earth, something to just kind of keep your eye on. It's very interesting. Birch trees are great. You know, they're also very symbolic of spring itself. They're one of the first trees to kind of sprout in spring, you know, put out new growth. Very, very special, yeah. Did the sun flip its poles south and north already? Good question. So during a solar cycle, the magnetic field reverses, but one of the problems with like mainstream media, you could say, is they don't really fully describe this. They make it sound like it just instantly does it, and then we're in a new solar regime. Like, it's a process. Like right now, the magnetic field strength for this pole and this pole, you know, the north and south pole, are near zero, but it's going to take like 2 years for these fields to then re-emerge in the opposite directions now, the polarity. So it's not like it's just all of a sudden, oh, there are the poles. It's like a process, and it'll take about 18 months, 2 years before we really start to see the field lines kind of become clear and strengthen, and some of the chaos in the center here to like kind of subdue, clear out, and go away. And then we'll be in solar minimum, and then we'll have clear, you know, polarities for the magnetic field for the sun. But it's not a, oh, has it flipped yet? Oh, no, it hasn't flipped. Maybe tomorrow it's going to flip. So just FYI. Because there's all these like clickbait videos of like it's flipping like now, like this instant, and that's just not the case. It's this process. The shift is humanity, not the poles. So there's this connection between solar consciousness and human consciousness and the collective and everything. And it seems that we are also undergoing some large shifts in consciousness and beliefs and everything. Based on solar cycles, but also larger, longer planetary cycles too. Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. You have all the outer planets have different conjunction aspects that they undergo that last from 12 years up to 482 years. So that's the Neptune-Pluto cycle. And then you have Sedna, which is this 11,400 year cycle. So those also affect kind of the collective consciousness. And one of the ideas in astrology is that the further something out is, it's like finding a new area of the of human consciousness, and the further out it is, like the deeper in our subconscious it is. So Sedna, being this tiny dwarf planet that has this 11,400 year cycle that actually goes into interplanetary magnetic, the interplanetary space and the magnetic field there is very interesting. It actually leaves the heliosphere way out there. Then it comes back in and actually gets pretty close to our sun. It's still outside the range of Pluto, but yeah, there's a lot of cycles that are affecting human consciousness at this moment in time. The solar cycle is one of them. There's planetary cycles. There's also sometimes it's our own internal cycles that we manifest and generate internally. We're not just victims of these, of these energy fields and archetypal energies and the morphic field. Like, we are also contributing to that at the same time. That's what I believe. My favorite star, I like this one. This one's pretty great. I don't know, to get back to you. Maybe I like Sirius. Sirius is really cool. Because it's the brightest. Probably my favorite star is Sirius. Yep. Symbiosis, exactly. Why did CERN decide to turn on the LHC exactly during the solar eclipse? Well, that's okay. So if we go into the conspiracy a little bit, what is becoming pretty evident to me the more I study astrology is that a lot of these things are timed precisely to astrological cycles. Like, for example, the release of certain announcements by Apple coincided perfectly with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Like their goggle things, whatever they're called, the Vision Pro. That was announced with Pluto first going into Aquarius last year, and then they released it right with Pluto going into Aquarius. This is Apple, and you see this across the government. You see this across a whole bunch of companies and organizations where they time certain things to astrological alignment. So clearly some of these people up there know the same stuff that, for example, I do or astrologers do, and they may know it better. I mean, I'm pretty new to this. It stands to reason that a lot of these people also have interest in these things, but they keep it maybe a little bit more, they don't talk about it publicly like I am on a live stream. But you can see actions speak louder than words. You can see them releasing this stuff at these times. And so you could make the argument that if you get enough evidence of CERN always starting up during certain astrological alignments, that's a little odd. Because certainly I've seen that with, for example, like Apple. They absolutely have some astrologer at the top who's like talking, either it is Tim Cook or it's someone that's speaking to him saying, hey, this will make this more effective. You just started a 20-year cycle for the Vision Pro or whatever. So that is certainly the case. But for CERN, I don't know. But it is interesting. Same with the stock market. Yeah. You see these things with the stock market too. Absolutely. Certain markets. 144,000. Yeah, maybe not. We'll see. Do you think the sun is the source god? Well, I think the sun is conscious. There's ideas out there that the sun is like a fallen angel who is now redeeming itself. Certainly in regards to our solar system, I mean, without the sun, we wouldn't have the energy that we do, but I don't think the sun is necessarily like the source any more than a different planet is. Source that exists beyond space and time, in my understanding, and I think we're all connected to that, and the sun maybe just has a larger connection to source than, let's say, the earth or let's say us individually, but we all have that connection. And as we undergo our consciousness evolution journey, maybe one day I'll actually be the sun, or maybe I am the sun in my higher spiritual dimension or something. And just right now, my consciousness is fixated on this material reality, me in this body, just the same as, for example, I can fixate my consciousness on my hand or on my back or something, rather than here, my brain, or with my eyes. So who knows? A lot of fun ideas to play with there. Stay inside a window. Stars are windows to the Creator. We are all stars. I'll remove any human hubris. The appendix of God. Hopefully we don't get inflamed and burst. Who will be inside during the eclipse? I think that's a really good idea, is to just either be with people very special and close to you, because it is that new moon initiation, or to really just to quiet your own internal energies as the outside energies build to a crescendo. I think that's a very intelligent thing to do. But sometimes fortune favors the brave, so just plan out your strategy or just go with intuition in the flow of it, and I think it'll all work out in the long run. We live and learn. Yes, my hair. Aha. Yep, nice and short now. I'm going to be working, and I'll work outside. Well, enjoy the fresh air outside. Sounds nice. Follow your gut, young Padawan. Yeah, I think there's a lot of intelligence here. So I would say this is to be used, this is to be used, and this is to be used. And probably in that order too. Like, think of something here, ask your heart, and then feel it with your gut. If all three align, you're probably on the right track. Thank you. You give corporations too much credit. There is nothing less spiritual than corporations. Oh, I'm not saying they're like doing this for our benefit. I just think that I think a lot of these people and higher powers or whatever, I think they also study this and use it to their benefit, but not necessarily ours. So it's not some benefic spiritual thing. But to think that there aren't other people in higher positions of power, for example, in this material realm, utilizing the same kind of system of understanding that we have with astrology, I don't think it's just a people's thing. I think everyone's using it across the world, and some people just have like the weight of a company or a government behind them. But it doesn't mean that they're doing it in like a clean spiritual sense. They could be doing it very greedily or selfishly. Like, I don't think a lot of these things that are coming out are good. because they just want to entrap you behind a screen and give you cancer of the brain and all this. But I'll be signing off soon, so let's do like 3 more questions. We'll do 3 more, so if you have them, please comment them below. Thank you all for being here. Manifestation has been used by big corporations for a long time. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a spell. They harvest your energy. Not all corporations, like Dr. Bronner's, they're really great. You know, there are companies and organizations and groups out there that do have good, heart-centered, people-focused, love energy behind them. So that's where you have to vote with your dollar. Put your energy into that. Like if you have to spend $1, right? You need your toothpaste. Buy the toothpaste that's actually going to be good for you and also help the planet, reforest the world, things of that nature. Not everything is evil. Bill Nye SG, the science guy. I'm like the space weather Bill Nye, some people say. Nice live stream. Thank you. Thank you. Be good at all times. Your spiritual heart is in your right chest, merging to taking balance between heaven and earth, and your tongue will be clean. Wake up. Yeah, just love-centered, love first. Non-fluoride toothpaste. Exactly. Thank you, Stefan. You're welcome. Good News Channel 369. Tesla numbers. Glad you're here. I'm not getting any more Q&A, so I think I'm going to sign off now. So yes, thank you all for being here, for joining this live stream. Very active. It started off very slow, but now it's been quite busy. So I guess it was a good time. And yeah, just a quick recap. High-speed stream from this Chrono Hole coming up on the 4th. Geomagnetic storm likely. Aurora in the northern latitudes. Maybe some very faint aurora down at the USA-Canada border. That's what they're forecasting. And then we have the total solar eclipse coming up on the 8th. That is exactly conjunct Chiron. A good time to go inwards, look at any wounds, address them, heal as you can, and then move forward. We have Saturn and Mars conjunct on the 10th. So just afterwards, that's the cycle of woe, the 2 malefics coming together. But in Pisces, it's a little bit kind of relaxed and reduced a little bit. We do have Mercury retrograde happening right now, so really be mindful of your words. Don't be too hasty. Don't be hasty, but also speak your mind. Stand in your power, but from a very mindful place. Think of other people, but also think of yourself. Give yourself. Value yourself appropriately. And then we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on the 20th. I have a video on that you can watch. I'll put that in the video description. That talks about the grand Earth trine that forms. Really, really benefic. So happy that you all joined in, that this live stream is successful, and I will see you all in the next one. And yeah, wishing you all well, love, blessings, and I will keep you up to date. I'm working on a lot of content right now for this course. Been looking at deep planetary cycles, and so once the first segment to the course is done, I'm going to release it at a discounted price, and then as I add in more segments, the price will go up correspondingly until the entire course is done, and then it'll be at that final package. So just FYI, I've been talking about this a little bit, teasing it. When you see that initial announcement for the course, it's not going to be the complete course. It'll be just for the first large section of it. But you can get the entire course for a discounted price if you get it when only the first section is out. And then I'm just working to release these one after another. So just FYI, for those of you who are on live stream, you're a little bit more engaged, a little bit more active with what I do, what I offer, and everything. So that's probably going to be what you want to do, because it'll be like a fifth as much or like a fourth as much. I have to figure out the pricing, but it's going to be this very comprehensive course: energy, frequency, and vibration. It's going to cover the entire vibratory scale from like 0 hertz, so ultra long cycles like geomagnetic excursions and planetary cycles and Milankovitch cycles, all the way to God particles, which are extremely vibratory, and like gamma radiation and everything in between, Schumann resonances, brain waves, like everything as best as I can. So it's going to be really, really exciting, very comprehensive, energy, frequency, vibration, master course, something like that. I'll make that announcement soon, but just FYI, heads up, that is coming. And when the first section is done, you can get the entire course for cheaper. And anyone that's pre-ordered the Schumann Resonances and Human Bioelectricity ebook will get access to that entire course. So if you order that and been wondering where that ebook is, this course is going to be kind of that product. And so you get access to it. And because you believed in me, invested early, you get access to that entire course already if you pre-order the Schumann Resonances and Human Bioelectricity ebook. But the first section of the course should be hopefully done soon. And yeah, excited to announce that. Wishing you all well, a great total solar eclipse, and I will keep you up to date. So please, if you like the video, like it, subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned because I will be back for more very, very soon. Wishing you all well. God bless.